This story is about how problematic relationships can lead to tragic consequences. A 16-year-old girl who had received strange messages and threats was found dead in her room. The main suspect immediately became her ex-boyfriend, whom she had left shortly before. To solve this complicated case, the police had to act in the best traditions of detective films, use wiretapping, hidden cameras, and use tricks. In this video, we will tell you about those terrible events and answer the main question: what happened to Emma Walker? Emma Walker was born on March 20, 2000 in the American city of Knoxville, Tennessee. From early childhood, she was distinguished by her energy and determination. Her dream was to become either a veterinarian or a nurse working with newborn babies. In 2014, Emmy entered Knoxville Central High School. Already in the first year, she was one of her class who managed to get into the cheerleading team, which usually only accepted students from older classes. In her spare time, Emmy volunteered at a local animal shelter. In her first year of study, she met a guy named Riley Gall. He was 2 years older, played football, and at that time was dating another girl. After some time, they broke up, and Emma began dating him. At first, their romance resembled a typical American film. The popular jock at school and the cheerleader seemed like a perfect match, but in reality it was all just a pretty picture. At first, Emmy did not tell anyone her problems that arose in the relationship. The first alarm bell was Riley's unusual behavior before his graduation. He told Emmy that he would go to the prom with his ex-girlfriend. Given the significance of the prom, Emmy's friends and parents advised her to break up with Riley, but she did not listen to anyone. Otherwise, things haven't been going well for the couple since then. They quarreled, broke up, and got back together again. The longer the relationship went on, the more aggressive Riley became. He constantly tried to control Emma, even down to the clothes she wore. The guy also got very angry when she spent time with friends without him. After another quarrel, when the couple broke up again, Riley wrote Emmy a series of angry messages. In them he said that she was dead to him, insulted her, and tried with all his might to hurt her. For Emmy's parents, this was the last straw. They took her smartphone and banned Riley from coming to their house, but that didn't help. The couple constantly found a way to keep in touch. In this rhythm, their relationship lasted almost 2 years. Riley graduated from high school and entered Maryville College, 30 kilometers from Knoxville. Emmy's parents hoped that the distance would finally help their daughter finally break up with her boyfriend, but they continued to periodically converge and separate. Then the parents forbade their daughter to go anywhere except school, training, and work. At that time, she was working part-time at a supermarket. These drastic measures finally worked. Emmy was really starting to distance herself from Riley, and ultimately decided to forget about him forever. Parents and friends watched as her condition changed for the better. Instead of being constantly stressed by this strained relationship, she became cheerful and cheerful again, and eventually she stopped thinking about Riley. But he didn't want their relationship to end at all. After Emma finally broke up with him, the guy tried to commit suicide, but they managed to pump him out. On November 18, the football team of the school where Emma studied won a major victory. Therefore, a big party was thrown for the occasion, and the girl's parents allowed her to go there. Emma was having a fun time, but at one point she began receiving alarming messages from an unknown number on her phone. The first message said, "Go out alone if you don't want the one you love to get hurt." She then received a similar message asking her to go out to her car. In case of refusal, the unknown person also threatened to harm the one who is dear to Emmy. The girl was very scared. She didn't know what she should do in this situation, and showed the message to her friend. At that moment, a third message came, saying that he was in a ditch behind the house. "It's a shame you didn't care about his life." Emma and her friend decided to go outside and see what was happening there. Indeed, behind the house, they saw a guy lying face down on the ground. It turned out to be Riley. It looked as if he was lying unconscious. However, when Emma and her friend approached him, the guy woke up. Riley said he didn't remember how he got here. According to him, someone had him on the head and pushed him into a van, after which he ended up here. Emma didn't believe this story. She was seriously frightened by all these messages. And the girl, in tears, asked Riley to leave her alone. The guy didn't argue and left. He called his friend named Noah, asked him to come get him, and told the same story about the kidnapping. However, his friend did not believe him and refused. The next day, the strangeness continued. On Saturday morning, Emma was alone in the house. Later, the girl was supposed to meet her mother in the city. At some point, she noticed that someone dressed all in black was walking down her street. His face was hidden. He walked to the door of her house and began to ring the doorbell continuously. Emma was scared, but instead of calling the police, she sent messages to several friends. In them, she talked about what was happening and added, "I thought he would kill me." Judging by the last phrase, the unknown person left rather quickly, since Emma spoke about the threat in the past tense. However, after texting her friends, she texted Riley and asked him to come over urgently. The guy quickly arrived at the scene and began to calm her down. Meanwhile, Emma's mother, who was waiting for her at the appointed place, began to worry and went home. There she saw him and Riley sitting on the porch. The mother asked the guys to leave, and he obeyed. The next day, Riley called Emmy about 60 times using a friend's phone because the girl had blocked his number. However, she did not answer these calls either. That day, Emma worked her shift at the supermarket, went out for ice cream with her father, and then went home. But Emma asked her mother to wake her up early so that she could wash her hair before school. On Monday, February 21, the mother went to her daughter's room at 6 a.m. Emma usually woke up very quickly. However, this time she did not react to her name. Then her mother shook her leg slightly, but there was no reaction. The mother decided to check her pulse, and to her horror, did not feel it. Immediately after this, she called the police in a panic. The arriving officers and doctors could only confirm Emma's death. She had been dead for at least several hours. After examining the room, detectives found 2 tiny holes in the walls, and on the street they found 2 shell casings. This indicated that the shooter was in the yard outside the house. He aimed at the wall, which unfortunately turned out to be very thin, and one of the shots caught the girl. According to doctors, she died instantly in her sleep. Later, forensic scientists determined that the shots were fired from a 9mm weapon. The police immediately had a logical question. Why didn't anyone in the family hear the shots in the middle of the night? The girl's father told detectives that he actually heard several loud bangs that woke him up in the middle of the night. However, he thought it was the sound of a door slamming. The men walked around the whole house, looked into Emmy's room, but did not notice anything unusual, and returned to sleep. Some neighbors told police they also heard popping noises around 3 a.m. The news of Emmy Walker's death quickly spread among her acquaintances and friends. But in the first hours after her body was discovered, police had not yet revealed the cause of death. Then all sorts of rumors spread around the school. Some believed that she took her own life. Others overdosed. Still others believed that Emmy died in her sleep from natural causes, due to some illness. But soon everyone learned the real reason. The police quickly began interviewing Emmy's friends and acquaintances. They were interested in who could want her dead. Almost all respondents named only one name, Riley Gall. As soon as news of Emmy's death spread throughout the city, Riley began actively publishing strange messages on social networks. Even though the police haven't even revealed the cause of death yet, he has already written how much he will miss her and added that she is now in a better place. This was extremely suspicious. Instead of trying to find out what happened to his beloved, he already said goodbye to her. Detectives questioned Riley, but he denied any involvement in Emmy's death. His story went like this. On Sunday evening, he went for a walk with friends. At the same time, you try to call Emmy from the phone of one of your friends. But the girl didn't pick up the phone. After that, he went to visit his grandparents, who lived nearby. He spent less than an hour there, after which he drove back to the college dormitory. He added that for several hours he just sat in the car and cried over breaking up with Emmy, looking at photographs of them together. Riley's roommate told police that the guy arrived at about 4:45 in the morning. He asked me to wake him up at 8 o'clock and went to bed. Let us remind you that Emmy died at approximately 3 o'clock in the morning. During the interrogation, Riley did not behave emotionally and even passively, as if he did not care about what was happening. He also never said Emmy's name, calling her just a girl. Riley's story and behavior seemed suspicious to the police, but there was no evidence to arrest him. However, new clues were not long in coming. Police received a call from two of Riley's friends, Alex McCarthy and Noah Walton. They said that before Emmy's death, Riley stole a 9mm pistol from her grandparents' house. The guy showed it to Alex, and he asked Noah how he could get rid of the prints on the barrel. When asked by friends why he needed a weapon, Riley gave a strange answer. He allegedly feared for his life and Emmy's safety. Therefore, a pistol was needed for protection. Upon learning that his friends had ratted him out, Riley became furious and demanded that he stop communicating with the police. After that, the guy asked them to help get rid of the gun. He assured his friends that he had nothing to do with Emmy's death, and he is afraid that someone else's crime will be pinned on him. But his friends didn't believe him. Too many facts suggested that Riley was guilty. Alex and Noah contacted the police again and told them about the guy's plans to get rid of the gun. Detectives could not allow the main evidence in this case to disappear, so they came up with a plan involving their friends and Riley. Alex and Noah were wiretapped, after which they went to visit Riley, supposedly just to play video games. They were also given hidden cameras made to look like car keys. At some point, the friends started talking about Emmer and played along with Riley when he again declared his innocence. One of them asked why not just give the gun to the police if you are not guilty. Riley's answer was extremely strange. He said it would simply be better if the police never found his gun. After that, the guy himself asked Alex and Noah to go with him and help him get rid of the gun. They left the house, got into the car, and headed towards the Tennessee River. Riley told them the gun was hidden at his stepfather's house. As soon as their car started moving, plainclothes police quietly followed them. Riley drove to his stepfather's house and took the gun, hid it in a garbage bag, and put it in the car. Then they stopped at a cafe, took a snack with them, and headed towards the river. They reached a parking lot where they could walk to the water. Riley put on rubber gloves and took the weapon out of the bag. At that moment, the undercover police officers who had been following the car all this time surrounded him and arrested him. Detectives also found an assortment of black clothing in the trash bag containing the weapon. After this, Riley was charged with first-degree murder. He still denied his guilt, and the case was sent to court. The trial began in May 2018. To the surprise of everyone, the lawyer and Riley made an unexpected statement. He admitted that he did shoot at Emmy's house that night. However, he did not plan to harm her. According to the consensus, Riley only wanted to scare the girl into needing protection and support, which would ultimately encourage her to make peace with him. However, the prosecution did not believe this version. Despite the fact that the shots were fired at the wall, the attacker chose the exact spot behind which Emmy's bed stood. The prosecution insisted that the shooter deliberately wanted to harm the girl. In addition, the prosecution was sure that Riley was the same unknown person in black clothes who rang Emmy's doorbell a few days before the tragedy. On May 8, the court delivered its verdict. Riley was convicted of first-degree murder and sentenced to the state's maximum penalty, life in prison. He will have the opportunity to apply for early release only after 51 years in prison. In his final speech at the trial, Riley apologized to Emmy's parents for taking their daughter away from them and stated that he had always loved her. The tragic and unfair story of Emmy Walker has caused a lot of noise. There is no doubt that Riley Gall is 100% guilty and deserves the maximum punishment. In all this confusing matter, only one question remains. Did the guy really come to Emmy's house with the intention of killing her? or the defense's story was true, and Riley didn't mean to hurt her. Nevertheless, the version of deliberate murder still remains much more solid.